Jamal Murray looks older. He doesn't look like he's in his early 20s, he looks 30. He looks like a man who has seen a lot. He has the face of a man who's been doubted a lot. And Jamal Murray has been doubted his whole life. Hell, I doubted him. I told my dad not to bet on the Nuggets because Murray is streakier than a meteor shower. But then I watched him in this series against Utah. Watched him stand toe-to-toe with the Arachnid Kid, aka Donovan Mitchell, and I watched him eventually defeat Donovan Mitchell. And I became curious. What was making this guy tick? I noticed a confidence and a swagger in this young man. I noticed an irrational confidence in this young man. It's true, lots of guys in the NBA have confidence. But this guy had irrational confidence. He thinks he's going to be one of the GOATs, that he's going to be part of that elite herd. So I started to like him. I started to like him the way you first aren't attracted to someone you know, but then you see him in a certain outfit and you go, damn, okay, I see them different now, and you start to like that person. Well, wait, not like that, but you know what I mean. I saw Murray had a look on his face, had a swagger in his step that was unreal, that he didn't shrink before the moment. I saw it in his eyes. The man was a killer. How had I missed this? I decided to do some research. One of the first things I do when studying any athlete that's killing it is I open Google and type something like this: Jamal Murray in mental training. I want to see if they train their mind. And what I found out about Jamal Murray is effing amazing. Before beginning, make sure you like and subscribe to get the best mental training content for basketball in the entire world. I say that humbly. And don't be a fool. Go to basketballbrain.com to get your full mental training program for only $20 a year. Let's explore Jamal Murray's mind state. I think Jamal Murray may be my illegitimate child. When I Googled Murray and mental training, I soon found that the secret to his success is what I've been preaching on this channel for years. It's a two-step process. Number one, you need to get tons of reps to reign supreme. And number two, you must train your mind. The reason Murray was into mental training was because from a young age, his father used to make him watch kung fu movies. He was telling Murray to focus on how mentally tough these Shaolin monks were, and how highly skilled they were, and how they trained hard, day in and day out. No matter the weather, no matter what was going on, they trained. And also, no matter the size of the opponent, the monks were never afraid. Murray wrote this, quote, "My dad encouraged me to notice more than just the fighting. Look at his footwork," he would say. "Look at his patience." He would get up really close to the TV, pointing at Bruce Lee on the screen. "Watch how he uses his mind to defeat the enemy." End quote. Murray fell in love with Bruce Lee, his mentality, his fearlessness, his dedication to training at the expense of all else, and especially his ability to get into the zone. Murray was taught to meditate from the time he was 4 years old. His father would have him sit on the couch and not move, and see how long the boy could remain silent and still. His father would make faces at him to distract him while he did this, try to make Murray laugh or crack a smile. As Murray got older, he learned to meditate all the time and visualize. Murray wrote, quote, "I got better at visualizing. We would increase the difficulty by meditating in public, on a park bench, or in a busy restaurant. Even if I was just quieting my mind for 2 minutes, I felt like I was building a special muscle that no one else could see. Without really knowing it, I was training." End quote. Murray talks about how he was in the 10th grade when he truly realized and recognized that mental training was his secret weapon. He was on a bus going to a big game with his teammates. The music was blaring and the guys were acting up. Everyone was really nervous. His father was also on the bus and at one point whispered to him, "Settle down and focus." So Murray began to meditate and visualize, visualizing himself running out through the warm-ups, going into the layup lines, getting ready for the game, visualizing himself performing excellently, visualizing the star players' moves who he had scouted, visualizing himself hitting game winners. In the game, Murray played amazing, and guess what? He actually hit a game winner. In the game, he played amazing, and guess what? He hit a game winner. He said what stuck in his mind was not so much the game winner, but how mentally locked in he was. Murray wrote, "It was a close game all the way. With about 40 seconds left, I tied it up with a 3. The other team came down and missed 2 free throws, but on our next trip down, we missed and they got the ball back. They called a timeout with 5 seconds left, tie game. Looking back, I think about how calm I was. My mind wasn't racing. I felt focused. When they took the ball out, I got a jump on the passing lane and stole the ball. With just a few seconds left, I had to pull up from half court. Somehow, someway, the ball went in at the buzzer. We went to the city finals. The reason I think of that game isn't because of my game-winning shot. Making the shot was nice, but I was more proud of the steal. I was locked in at just the right moment." End quote. Now imagine this. A coach from the University of Kentucky comes to see you. He just watched you through a workout and he wants to talk to you, but he's told he has to wait for you. Why? Because you are not done meditating. That's exactly what Murray did. The Bleacher Report writes, quote, "Coach Payne traveled more than 600 miles, crossed the Canadian border, and sat through a high school workout in an Ontario gym. Now finally, it was time for Kentucky assistant Kenny Payne to shake the hand of a recruit he'd been so anxious to meet, or so he thought. As Payne rose from his seat in the Orangeville prep bleachers and began to approach Jamal Murray, the star guard's father stepped in and told Payne he'd need to wait a little longer. 'I'm sorry,' Roger Murray said, 'but Jamal needs time to meditate.' Sure enough, Payne turned his head and saw the top teenager player in Canada sitting alone on the hardwood floor in the corner of the gym. His eyes were closed, his mind clearly in deep thought. It's a ritual Jamal says he practices both before and after every workout and every game. Mental kung fu, he calls it. Sometimes I'm just reflecting on practice and things I could have done better," Murray says. "Other times I'm visualizing things that will happen in a game. Having that time to myself is important. It's a big part of who I am as a player." End quote. Now I have a certain image that comes to mind when I think about excelling in a game. It's a nuclear weapon. You've probably seen this in movies. Before a nuclear weapon can be launched, the most devastating weapon on the planet, the most devastating weapon ever created, 2 keys have to be turned at the same time. I think of that every time I play or do anything in life. Why? Because the 2 keys that you need to turn to ignite your potential are your body and your mind. If you turn those 2 keys at the same time, you will max out your potential. So Murray doesn't just train his mind, like the warrior monks in the movie. He also trains his body and his skill, like the warrior monks in the movie. He reps over and over and over again. Listen, he reps a ton. He knows he needs reps to reign. He shoots day and night, 1,000 shots a day probably. He's addicted to reps. When he got to the University of Kentucky, the coaches were absolutely startled and also worried by his work ethic. This man shot so much that the coaches stole his shoes so he wouldn't practice. In fact, he infected the whole team and had them over-practicing potentially. The Bleacher Report wrote, quote, "Jamal was shooting in between team sessions and guys were following his lead. But we were worried about the fatigue," said one of the coaches, "so we told our staff to literally take away everyone's shoes and hide them. That way, we could get them off their feet." Later that day, though, coaches spotted Murray in the gym during off hours. He was shooting barefoot. "He's got the heart of the lion," said the coach. "He doesn't need anyone to push him." End quote. Murray is like a Shaolin monk. He has his specialties, but he is also trained for anything. I made a video a long time ago called "What Does a Samurai Do When You Cut Off His Head?" The answer is the samurai still has moves. Murray has trained for every position. His father trained him to play forward, shooting guard, point, and to work from the post and on the wing. "He's a positionless player," says John Calipari, the UK coach. "We can use him anywhere on the court." His father also made sure he always worked on his weaknesses. He'd make him play a game without taking a single shot to rack up assists. Some games he'd only play with his left hand. Conditioning was also a big part, wind sprints and hill running. Strength training too. He trained against 10-year-olds as a 6-year-old, and as a 10-year-old against 14-year-olds, and as a 14-year-old against grown men. His father'd have him train in the snow and on ice to work on his balance. And on and aside, Murray has incredible balance on his jump shot. Now, while he was training his body and getting these reps, he would train his mind at the same time. Like I tell you guys all the time, make sure your physical practice also works in mental training. He was made to work through pain, to run those hills, and then do push-ups for missed free throws. So he'd learn how to practice through fatigue. He actually had a drill I talk about in my new program, the Jump Shot Bible. Go to jumpshotbible.com to get the program now. It's to shoot with your eyes shut or blindfolded. Murray wrote this, quote, "My dad always would put a little kung fu into our basketball workouts. Put on this blindfold," my dad would say. We'd be on the outdoor court in our backyard. At first, I didn't really like the blindfold drill. "Why are we doing this, Dad?" I'd complain. "No one else has to do these drills with their dad," I would tell him. "This is what it feels like when you aren't in control," his father would respond. "You're playing blind." It sounded like a kung fu movie. I couldn't see how this drill was better than just taking a lot of shots. So I'd shoot these blind free throws with my dad rebounding. One after another, my dad would get right in my ear, doing his best to get in my head. "Maybe you're not ready. Time to quit. You've gone fishing. You're done." Sometimes I'd airball it. Most of the time I'd hit rim. Not very many went in. Clank, clank, clank. Sometimes my dad would hold the ball for a minute at a time, making me wait. He'd tell me to take off the blindfold and shoot a few with my eyes open. Then he'd have me put the blindfold back on, and again it would feel weird. I tried to feel all the muscles that went into the mechanics of my shot. The more we did it, the more comfortable it was not to have to rely on my eyes. By high school, we had done the blindfold drill hundreds of times. By that time, when my dad tried to distract me, he was just wasting his time. I could see the hoop in my head. Swish, swish, swish. End quote. As you have seen, his father plays a huge role in his life. In my Killer Instinct program, I talk about the need for a torturer, someone who doesn't actually torture you, but pushes you to your limits because they love you, because they want to see you reach your potential. Roger Murray, Jamal Murray's father, said he stopped his life for Jamal. Who is your torturer? Who's going to push you to a higher level? I hope I'm playing a small role in that. His father taught Jamal to have focus on the court by pushing him when he shot, pushing him off balance, blindfolding him, as we said. And off the court, he wanted to teach Jamal not to be distracted, to have discipline. Murray had no cell phone when he first went to Kentucky as a freshman. He did not have cable TV growing up. "I didn't let him hang out with kids at the mall either," Roger said. "Kids waste so much time these days. They cheat themselves. I wanted everything to have a purpose." I first heard of Jamal Murray when he scored 50 in his rookie season. I don't watch college basketball at all. It actually bores me. I'm not impressed with most of the talent on the floor. They don't have much skill. But Jamal in that game, he really made an impression on me, but I never heard about him really again, so I figured he was just a one-hit wonder. And indeed, the next time I heard of him, I didn't really like it. It was this.
Yeah, my guess is no, he was not shooting for the 50. But, oh, he did shoot.
Yes, he did.
But, oh, he did shoot.
Did. Yes, he did.
Seltzer, remember that.
Sometimes the killer instinct, that present moment mentality, can cause some people to make some bad moves, to be sort of a dickhead, if you will. Now, when I think about this, that's maybe why I didn't like it. I saw him do this at the buzzer, shoot that three-pointer. But now I get it. He's just keyed up. He's an underdog. He's playing with a chip on his shoulder. He's trying to be the GOAT, and to be the GOAT, you have to be sort of a dick. He's from Canada. Nobody thinks people from Canada are very good this side of Steve Nash. That's on his mind. He was overlooked for most of his life. But, you know, having that attitude also helps him excel, not shy away from the big moment. He said, quote, "I want the ball in crunch time. I want to be the guy to take the last shot. I seek it out." It helps him dominate a game 7. It helps him want to guard the best player. He wants it all. He wants all the smoke. He wants to get into those battles. He stays in the present moment and is fearless. And yes, sometimes it makes him a little obnoxious. But couldn't we say the same about Kobe Bryant? The man has built himself for a basketball war. He has trained his body and he has trained his mind, and he's ready to fight to the death like his favorite kung fu action heroes. Right now, Murray is probably practicing somewhere, getting shots up. I talk to young guys. They want to be great. They want to go to college. They want to play pro. I tell them, you're not even a starter on your high school team. And NBA players who are stars in the league are outworking you. They're getting more shots up than you. Wake up. You need to get to work. Train your body and mind at least as much as people who are already great are training their body and mind. As said, Murray wants to be the GOAT. He's that underrated, unnoticed samurai, the eternal underdog, overlooked. Murray seems to want this more than others in the league. And actually, that's the danger I see. I've seen athletes want it too much. Can Murray put pressure on himself, but not overtry? Can he stay in the zone, in the present, in the flow, and not want the result too much? Can he stay in the process rather than yearning and grasping for a result? Kobe was a master at this, so was Jordan. Can he consistently let all of his mental and physical practice flow through him and into the game? I think so. I think his mental training will help him. You've got to understand this kid is different, a former coach at Kentucky said. The entire situation is different. It's not just a kid saying, I want to be a good basketball player. His whole approach is unique and interesting and cerebral. It's something we've never seen. Murray again may be my next Kobe, the guy I have to watch. He isn't there yet, but damn, I'm glad I researched him. I think I may have a Canadian illegitimate child. He feels like the son of the Basketball Brain channel. Growing up, I was always interested in the mental game. After years of study, I developed the Basketball Brain program. My life is devoted to helping others achieve their greatness. I hope you'll like, subscribe, and if you take a chance with the Basketball Brain program, I promise you your game's going to reach levels that you never thought possible.
Yo.
Hey!